Hi. The following video is a record of how I installed the SeeLeveL tank monitoring system in my Winnebago Travato 59K. It's a 2019. I think if you follow along, it's kind of choppy because it's just a video record I took on my smartphone. But if you follow along to the end, I think you'll be able to easily install the system in your own camper van or RV. It's really quite simple to install. It's a lot of little steps, a lot of little adjustments, but it's a great system. It allows you to go from just kind of guessing where your water levels were if you were above or below a third of a tank to seeing 3, 4, 5% increments depending on the size of the water tank. Apologies for the amateur level of the video, but I hope you enjoy it. Thanks. This is the tank after I have cleaned it up. So I took off the existing level connectors. I didn't take a picture of that, sorry about that. But this is after I used Goof Off to get all the adhesive off. It was mounted with two-sided tape. This is the, connector that I'm going to have to plug into. But this is the wire by the tank for the tank level monitor for the freshwater. This is the pigtail that I cut out. So these wires here were connected to the existing tank monitor, and that the striped wire is the signal lead and the black wire is the ground. So this is the long sender that I will be putting into the fresh tank, which is right down here. So that measures a 17-inch top to bottom on the fresh tank, and this is a 16-inch sender. So it should go top to bottom. I'll have to see. I can snip off one of these bottom pieces if I need to, but I'm going to try to do all 8 segments. You can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 segments, which should give me somewhere around a ½ inch of water resolution. So for every ½ inch it should show a different percentage. So this is the regular wires, and I've used butt connectors to crimp the connection to the existing. This is the prior connector that I disconnected from the old senders. So I'm going to use the same internal wiring, which is, excuse the action cam there, right down there. So I'm going to have to place it on the side and then work the wires down and connect them. I'm getting ready to tape this down, and you'll see that I haven't done anything to the senders at the top. You can see that it says they're gray GBC, which is gray tank correction, top something else, and black. For freshwater, you don't touch any of those. I will be snipping some of those to indicate the gray tank and the black tank when I use the small senders on those. This is the little wiring harness that is for the SeeLeveL tank monitoring panel. So this is what plugs in, and it's really simple. There's only 4 leads. If you look at the book, it'll tell you the leads are just 12-volt power, ground. All the tank senders go together. So you take the signal lead from each of the tanks, which is the striped black wire, or the yellow wire up here. I'll show you that in a minute. And you just bundle them all together, and the same with the grounds. The grounds are all bundled together, and then there's the LPG tank, which is separate. That's just one wire. And you'll see that's the green wire, and that's the first one I connected, was the green wire. I cut it off the LPG tank. Now, you might wonder, how did I know this was the signal wire for the LPG tank? I cut it off. This is the cable that goes in the back of the tank reader. And you'll see I cut this one here off in the corner. And if you look at the user guide, it very usefully, this is the Winnebago user guide, in the precision circuits section, it actually tells you exactly what each wire is. So super handy. So I'm looking for liquid propane, black tank 1, gray tank 1, and the fresh tank. All these grounds will all be bundled together into a single connection. The fresh, the gray, and the black will all be bundled into a single connection. So I'll be connecting all the grounds to this black wire, all of the signal ones to this blue wire, and then the 12 volt power to this red wire. And that's it as far as the wiring. So going back to the plug that I took out the back of the one place, these 3 yellow wires will be bundled together. Those are the 3 tank sensors. And then all the white wires, they're all the grounds. They will all be stripped, and bundled together and connected to this black wire. Okay, I think I have everything wired up. This is the hot. That's going to 12 volt power. All of the grounds are together to the black. I had to use 2 caps because it's a lot of wires. I got 5 grounds plus the one going to the harness, so that's a total of 6. So I needed to use 2 caps, and I put a jumper between them. The 3 signal leads going to the blue wire. These are the tank sender signal leads, and then the liquid propane gas meter is the green lead. Okay, I've done all the wiring. I've turned the battery on, and let's see what happens here. All right, I have 12.5 volts, which is not great. Looks like my solar needs to do some charging. Fresh water, 91%. Yay! And just to give you an idea, I'm still going to have to calibrate this a little bit, I think. But if you look at the tank, you can kind of see the water level right about here. So, yeah, that's probably 91% of where that sensor is. Okay, so back at the sender, again, battery 12.5, fresh 91. Now gray is open, black is open because I have not connected those sensors up yet. I just snipped the wires onto the old sensors, so they're just hanging down there. But look at that, LP 77%. That's probably about right. Now I need to calibrate the LP gas, and you do that right when you fill it. Okay, as you can see, I have topped off the tank. You can see the water burbling up around there and hear it dripping. And I also found I needed to tape the sender at the top a little harder. I had this other piece of tape a little low, so the sender was pulling away a little bit. So it is indeed reading 100%. Excellent. So I am going to now go through the arduous process of draining the tank and seeing if it drains properly and actually reads properly at the bottom of the tank. Well, I've drained the tank, but I'm still at 6% on the meter. But we're also at a pretty good angle here. Sorry, you can't see this. As you can tell, we're near the level where I'm parked. So, yeah, it could be the angle, or it could be that the sensor is just too low. So I'm going to move the van someplace more level and see if it straightens up, or if I need to adjust the sensor. What I did is I drove around and made sure that when I was on level ground, I was recording a 0 as the tank is kind of officially empty. There's still a little bit of water sloshing around on the bottom, so it's about a ½ inch off the bottom right now. because there is some water in this tank design that just sort of sloshes around. Maybe the pickup is a little above the bottom or something. So, and the good news is the sensor is going all the way to the top, and it's not picking up the plastic up here, giving me a full false reading when it's really empty. So you can move the sensor to the top on the fresh tank. The gray and the black are totally different designs, so we might have to be more careful about the top of the tank with those ones. But for fresh right now, I'm able to put the whole 16-inch strip on, and it's up off the bottom about a ½ an inch. Okay, so the tank is full, and it beautifully reads 100. Okay, right now I am under the van, and you'll see right here by the generator, quite close. Sorry for the up close, it's just so tight down here. This is the black tank, and these are the black tank tabs. This doesn't look like a great location to mount. I may reuse this, but as you can see, I'll have to remove a lot of material up there, foam material. Still, it might be a good place to put it because I do think I can keep it away from metal. You're supposed to keep the sensors away from metal, not touching them. And as you can see, there's a lot of straps and things holding this together. You know, these metal braces, and there's a lot of metal up around the top. So finding a place where you can put the sensor without touching metal is important. So this actually could be a good place, because I think as it moves up to the gray tank, the shower drain, if I can carve away some of that stuff, but I need to get all the way to the top, because of course with a black tank and a gray tank, the most important thing is to measure when you're at the top of the tank, because you care when it's full, you don't really care when it's empty. On the gray tank, we've got the sensors right here, and again, I am sorry, it is just so hard to get this filmed. And you'll see there's actually a nice open area above it, but there's this space right here. You know, if I pan left to right, and again, I'm sorry it's so close, but as I pan left to right, there's a space right here which I think might be perfect, which means I don't have to go through the hassle of taking these old sensors off. By the way, this is really uncomfortable. But holding this up, one thing I've noticed on this strip is that it's too long. So if you remember, there's these little segments on the bottom of it. Looks like I'm going to be cutting off at least one segment, because here I'm holding it right to the top. You're supposed to have about a ½ inch between the top, but on the freshwater tank I actually brought it all the way up to the top. But I may take it down like a ¼ inch and see if that will work. I think that would work if I just took it down a little bit and just cut off one of the segments. Okay, so this is the unit that I'm going to use for the gray tank. As I showed you a minute ago, I'm going to have to cut off this piece right here, and then I'm going to have to notch the tab that says gray. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know how well that zooms in, but there's it says gray right there, and I'm just going to have to snip across that circuit, and then that'll tell the meter that this is for the gray tank. Okay, so here it is after I snipped it. I have to hold the camera so I couldn't watch me snip it, but that's that one piece separated off there, and I have snipped across this gray tab, so I'll cut that off now. It's just the backing on the sticky stuff that's holding it on there now. So those are the butt connectors that I put on. The striped wire is the signal wire, and the black goes to black. Okay, so here's the unit taped into place. I think that worked out pretty good. Now let's pour some water in it and see how it does. More importantly, how it reads when it gets near full. Okay, by the way, this is where I ended up mounting. I put it where the Magnum inverter controller was, just because I thought it fit well and it's an easy place to read it. I actually have relocated the Magnum inverter control down where the USB port was. I don't really use that USB port, and at some point I'm hoping to swap out for a Victron inverter anyway. And when I do that, I will just put the kind of an upgraded USB controller back in that spot. In the meantime, it works fine. It's out of the way, and whenever I get rid of that inverter, I'll just swap it out with a new charging center. So here's the control panel showing batteries at 14.3, which goes along pretty good with what we're showing on the Zamp solar controller. Fresh water, 91%. And this is on a little bit of a tilt. This my driveway tilts towards the street, and I found that increases the reading by about 3%. If I go on to flat, it would probably be showing 88% in the fresh tank. So previously, I just pushed the black tank and it's season open. I don't have that sensor on yet, and that's what I was showing previously on the gray tank. Now I'm showing 5% in the gray tank, and that sounds about right. We've got a little bit of water in the gray tank from some other testing we've done. LPG is at 78%. All right, so I'm gonna hit gray tank twice, and now we've got the little dot, which it'll stay lit for 5 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill it up from the fresh tank and see how we do. Just wanted to note, it might take me a minute to fill this fresh tank. I put a new faucet on that has a three-way for a ½ gallon per minute, 1 gallon per minute, or 1.5 gallon per minute, and this bail to slow it, so that I could open that up wide and still control the water from up here. It doesn't shut it all the way off, but it does a really good job of restricting water. So anytime I don't have to control it from that handle as much, I can just control it here. But it's pretty restrictive, so at 1.5 gallons per minute, it's going to take a lot of minutes to fill this gray tank. All right, so right now we're kind of bouncing around between 20 and 25%. So that shows you that with 5 segments, I'm recording 5% increments. So it's not like the freshwater where I get 3% increments, because I've got a total of 8 segments on that sensor. I've only got 5 segments on the sensor. It only comes with 6, and I had to cut one off. So that's the downside of really, really short tanks. So I think we might have a problem. It appears my gray tank is full, and I am still showing 90%. So the tank may be too high. You know, a lot of it has to do with the angles that your RV is at, but of course we always want to be on the safe side. Okay, I moved it down about ½ an inch, and let's see how it reads. Okay, so we moved the sensor down ½ an inch, and we're now reading 100%. So I'm going to let some water out and see if we drain all the way up to 100% now. Okay, so we got to 100% just as the drain started to slow. So I'm going to leave it there. And just know when we get to 95%, you know, we got to really be careful. We're about to stop being able to drain. Okay, so I've removed, you can still see one of the tank monitors there, but I don't need to remove that one. I've already removed 2 here. I still need to get the sticky stuff off. And for that, I have some goof off, which I will be using. Getting mounting tape off is a pain. It always is. I've also carved out the foam so that I can get the monitor to the top. And I've started stripping the wires a little bit. Okay, I've got the area all cleaned off. I tie wrapped that cord to keep it away from the tank, and I crimped the butt connectors. And it looks like the sensor is going to fit, the whole sensor. This black tank is taller than this gray tank. So that's kind of cool. So I'm going to go ahead and mount it now with some painter's tape and do some testing. Also, I want to note that I did cut off the black tab. You can see right here. I cut that, so that will signal that this is the black tank sensor. Okay, I have it mounted, as you can see, about a half to a quarter inch from the top, and we'll see how that goes. Obviously, when the black tank is full, I want it to read full. The great news is there's plenty of room on the bottom, so I don't have to snip off any sections for this one. Just a question of how high on the tank do I mount it. I ended up having to cut off one of the segments for the freshwater tank. It was just, there's so much water in the tank. You can't really see it from here, but even when it's sucking air on the water pump, there's still quite a bit of water in the bottom. So I had to move the tank sensor up from the bottom quite a bit to get a 0 rating on the meter, because my biggest interest is not is there any water in the tank, it's can the pump pick up water. So having to move the bottom of the sensor up quite a bit to reflect kind of a 0 is now showing you're not going to get any more water to the pump. The sensor was too long. It was poking up way above the tank. So I had to take off 2 inches, right, which is 1 segment. Okay, here it is fully mounted, 3 millimeters or 3 centimeters from the top. Quite a few centimeters from the bottom. You can't really see it from here, but it's probably 6 centimeters from the bottom. And the wires go to the right, which is important, as if it goes to the left, will interfere with this up here. So I think we're good. And I got my wires routed behind the pipe here. I got my little disconnect down there, which was there before. I just utilized the existing disconnect. All right, that is done. I'm gonna put the lid back on it, put this thing back together. And you can see the little angle that I'm at. So it does collect down at this end. Down at the other end, you can see how narrow that is, but there's some water like right to here. Right. If I shake that, you can see that a little bit. So water levels to about here on this end and all the way to the top at the other end. It's really surprising what just a little bit of an angle can do to the water. So okay, we tested the sensor on the gray tank, which is this one, and the black tank, which is that one over there, and it's good readings. When they're empty it says 0, when they're full it says 100%. That's as good as we're going to get. So I am now going to remove the tape and clean it and permanently mount them. Okay, so this is the fresh tank mounted. Let's back up a little bit here. I don't know how well you can see that. And this is the black tank mounted. And I just ran a little bit of water in there, got it up to 4 or 5%. So they are reporting. Looks pretty good. Now I just need to put some heat shrink on those. Those are heat shrink butt connectors, so I need to shrink those up. And once I'm convinced that this is gonna stick, got a little bit of a curvature there. Looks like it's already coming up a little bit. I might need to tape that down. I'm gonna put some undercoating on these. They're supposed to be protected, but you know, this is the undercarriage of the vehicle. There could be a lot of water spraying around when you're driving down the highway in a rainstorm. So I want to make sure all this stuff is protected. And they recommended a certain 3M undercoating. This is the final mounting with the undercoating sprayed on to the black tank. You can see it's hiding there under the undercoating. And you can see how high I mounted it. You can see that top edge. And the same here for the gray tank. You can see I've sprayed it with the undercoating. So that should protect it from salt. Here in Ohio, there's lots and lots of salt in the road spray, so hopefully it will be protected for a long time. Okay, so that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. And the system's been working out great. We went boondocking already in the van, and being able to see the small percentages of water you're taking from the fresh tank and adding to the black and gray tanks has really made a big difference. So I'm glad I installed it, and I hope you found this useful. Thanks a lot. Bye.